All good. Who's
So,
going next?
Ray.
Okay, I'll go next. So my name is Ray. I live in Canada, Alberta, Canada, and it's currently 5 p.m. here. So yeah, we're just in the middle of going from a piano school to a full music school. And so we're very busy this summer, getting all the projects ready for September when school starts again, and we'll start lessons back up. So just looking at guitar stuff.
Awesome. Jen.
Hello. It's also 5 p.m. here, so I am just down in New Mexico, straight south of Ray. And yeah, and then I am just not knowledgeable on guitar and really need something to rely on. We use the Keynotes program, and I know I'd already talked to Sharon at BAMCon about this. Sounds like a great idea, but I also don't know how to field questions for guitar. So I actually do have one of my guitar teachers that is joining me in about 10 minutes, but we can proceed forward and he'll join us when he can. And I'm hoping that this will be just as great a program as the keynotes have been for us. So thanks, Sharon.
Thanks, Jen. Kylie.
Hi, yeah, I'm in Los Angeles, so it's 4 right now, an hour earlier. But yeah, I'm taking over some group guitar classes. I'm primarily coming from a piano teaching background, but I also play guitar, so just learning more about it. I used one of your lessons yesterday, actually, in a group guitar class, and it was fantastic.
Oh, excellent. So, which one?
It was the second lesson in the mystery workbook.
Uh-huh.
We went through that together as a class, and the kids loved it. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome. It's always lovely to hear feedback.
Sure.
I'm not sure if other people are going to jump in or not, so I thought I'll just get a start. My background, I'm a piano player. I actually did the jazz course way back when. And I actually started teaching the Keynotes piano program when we were in lockdowns, and Melbourne has the joyous accolade of being the most lockdown city in the world. So I got a lot of practice at teaching Zoom classes online in groups. And there were people that were like, are you nuts? Why are you starting groups online? Isn't that like 2 brand new things that you're simultaneously trying to do for the first time? And I jumped in and did it anyway, because who knew how long that was all going to go on for. I loved the program, and there are a couple of features about it that I couldn't find in a guitar program. And so it's kind of been built on the same, pedagogy, if you want to use that term. One is that every song has to have multiple difficulty levels. And the other is that it's cyclical. And what that means is that there are a bunch of workbooks for each kind of approximate age group level, and they can be done in any order. So, like, when I first heard about the idea of group classes, my initial reaction was, well, how can that possibly work? People learn at different rates. And that is true. So if you just grab any guitar book or any piano book that you might use for private students and go, that's cool, I'm just going to do it in a group setting. I've got a bunch of students who are more or less at the same level. If you do that, it's something that is it's a foregone conclusion that over time that will become less and less workable. And the reason for that is some students are going to do a heap of practice and they're going to get really good. Some students are not, and they're not going to progress at the same rate. And eventually someone will leave the class either because they've become so good they need to go up to the next level, or they move to a different city, or any of the reasons why people might drop out of a class. And then you've got a gap. How do you fill that gap? If you're halfway through a book that is linear, that you have to have learnt the early things in the book before you're going to be capable of playing the things that are later in the book, it actually doesn't work. And even if you don't have people leaving the class, you're going to end up with a spread of capability that after a certain amount of time becomes unworkable. So having the differentiation written in there right in front of you, and you don't even have to think about it, it's right there for every single song, means that if you have a new student joining you halfway through a term, off they go. There's the easy part right there for them. If you have somebody drop out and you've got an empty space, that's fine. Somebody just jumps in. And then there's lots of opportunities for consolidation, because if you've got similar learning objectives for each of the books in that level, then the student who was taking their time to master everything, and you know, the younger ones might not have that much dexterity to start with. They might need 3, 4, 5 books at that level before they're mastering everything before they go up. Somebody else might be progressing really quickly, and it just seems more natural to have the instrument in their hand for them, and they're mastering things more quickly. They might only do 1 or 2 books before they move up. So that's the way that you can have the individual path for progress that is a good fit for every student. And then you get all of the benefits of a group class, like playing in time together as an ensemble, which you really can't replicate in a private lesson. You know, that thing of the student plays, they get to a certain point, they make a mistake, they stop, they go back to the beginning, or they stop and rewind that little bit and try and get it right. And, you know, I can see you smiling that smile of, I've seen that 1,000 times. And the underlying pulse of music is lost when that happens. And as a teacher, you can explain it and go, let's think about this. Imagine if you're a band or in an ensemble or in a, orchestra, any, group of musicians playing together. What would happen if you stopped? And they can understand that other people wouldn't stop, and what you'd end up with is chaos. And then you say, okay, so let's do it again. And no matter what happens, don't stop. And they get it. And then they go to play that piece again, and the same thing happens. However, in a group class on week 2, when they've come back having practiced what they learnt in week 1, and the class is playing it together and a student makes a mistake and they stop, you can actually see in their eyes that visceral understanding of nobody else stopped. I have to hop back on the train's still going. So it actually develops students' ability to play in good time right from the beginning in a way that I don't know how to do in a private lesson setting. One of the other things that I love about the group setting is that because we have all these differentiated levels of the songs, you get the idea of an arrangement without us ever having to talk about that and use complex terms, that student over there is playing this version and that student over there is playing the other version, and the teacher's playing some combination of it or whatever. That music can be made up of components and they're all legitimate versions of that song. So here's an example. I'm a keys player. I've been doing an Aretha Franklin show with a singer. The first time I did it with her, it was just in a piano bar and it was myself and her. So I'm playing bass lines with my left hand. I'm trying to cover some horn parts with my right hand. I'm trying to make it sound full the best way I can. And since then, we've done it with bass and drums, or with bass and drums and guitar, and maybe we'll do a gig with some horns. And I'm still playing the same songs, but I'm not playing the same notes. But all of those are valid interpretations of the music. So while that's kind of a complex thing to get your head around, even with a group of 4-year-olds, without us saying a word, they're understanding that music can be played in a variety of ways and they're all legitimate. And I like that departure from, if it's not on the page, it's wrong. I think that's a bit of a limited way of thinking about music. So there's lots of benefits of group classes. So Kylie, you've been teaching group classes already on piano?
I have been slowly transitioning into group classes with the school I just started working for. I was primarily doing private piano lessons, but I've had the opportunity to sub a couple group classes, and we use the keynotes.
Right. So it's the same philosophy, which I love.
Yeah.
And I looked long and hard to find a guitar program that worked the same way, and I couldn't. Mm. So that's why I ended up doing this. I'm like, well, if I want this, maybe some other teachers do as well. Ray, have you done much group classes?
Yeah, so my school is 90% group piano, and we do a multi-stream method where we have, it's the lab setting where every student's got a set of headphones, but we break up the 50-minute class with maybe a game, or some kind of a music activity brain break of some kind just to break up the hour. And otherwise the kids are learning at their own pace around the room, and we're busy little bees as teachers going around from student to student.
So what ratio of teachers to students do you have?
1 to 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just what I'm wanting to get out of this, I guess, is I looked at the keynotes program and I already had lab going, like piano lab going, and it was strong. And I'm like, well, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So just leave it. But we are just working on building a 4 to 6-year-old program, and I'm still on the fence about keynotes, just because of the way that I'm structuring everything. 4 to 6-year-olds will go through our mini Mozart's program and then into lab. We've got piano lab. My voice teacher is working on voice lab right now, and what I'm seeing ahead is guitar lab.
Yeah.
So that's, and the voice and guitar will probably have to be single stream where everybody's learning the same thing at the same time, and that's where I'm lost. So
yeah, so learning the same thing at the same time, if there's not differentiation within those materials, that's when the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
So either everyone's learning independent things and it doesn't matter comparative to their neighbours in the class how fast things are progressing. But if they are learning the same thing at the same time, unless you've got differentiation, eventually somebody's going to get way ahead and be bored, and somebody else isn't going to be keeping up and is going to feel awkward and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. Yeah.
Yep.
So Sharon, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
The branding portion of it, and I don't even like with keynotes, we just say this is our keynotes classes. We use the same names, little keynotes, play keynotes, etc. Is it the same sort of setup with you, or is it more intended like the BAM squad group? Like which one is it more modeled for the branding portion? Because the BAM squad stuff, we can kind of put our own label on it.
Yeah. So
so yeah, go ahead.
I've ended up just calling it group guitar in absence of a more brilliant idea for a name for it. Open to suggestions for a rebrand at some point, but I run a school myself with I've just hired my 6th teacher who'll come on board in the next little while, and student numbers are growing. We just moved into a large commercial space, etc. So that rebranding thing got put on the back burner, but it is more modelled on the keynotes version.
Okay.
Is that a concern for you?
No, it's not a concern. It's just how to start branding it, because I'd rather not go through a rebrand if we don't have to for this particular thing. So if we, knew like, so do you have like different group names, or do you just have like, it's guitar lab and it's level 1, 2, and 3? Like, how does that work?
So what I've got is the overall program is called group guitar, and we have 4+, meaning 4-year-olds and older. We have 7+. And we're about to start a new term in Australia, and we're trialling a new 9+ program, which I'll run a whole term of, and see if there's anything we need to tweak or whatever, and then that will go on the Kajabi site.
Okay. So the books and so forth are just they're very generic at this point as far as title and stuff goes, and we just know what books go with what age group more or less. Okay.
So maybe what I'll do is share my screen and actually show you where to find everything and how it all works.
Okay. And I had a thought, take it or leave it. But what if you're kind of following the keynotes lead in this, could we possibly just call it the same thing for the age groups? Like if you're just saying little guitar and play guitar, and just kind of use that same thing so it's side by side.
I mean, from an educational point of view, yes, I've absolutely modelled it off them, but it's also not supposed to be a carbon copy. But I see where you're coming from. That's kind of why I ended up with 4+ and 7+, because without having to think too hard, you can easily access what those materials are supposed to be used for.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know, there's an assumption there that they would necessarily work side by side on a different instrument, and I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case, and people who play more guitar than me would know. Kylie, maybe you've got some input on this of, you know, little ones even getting their hands into the position and being able to put pressure on the neck of a guitar, that it requires more dexterity than it does to press down some notes, especially on a digital piano that's not fully weighted. What are your thoughts, Kylie?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I've only been subbing. The group guitar program that we have is really only eight and up. Most of them are 9, and still some of them are having a hard time on a nylon string guitar holding down frets. So yeah, I imagine that's true.
So, but I'll think about that. Do they need names that are a bit more kind of inspiring and descriptive than just 4+ and 7+ and 9+? And even that, not all 7-year-olds are the same.
Yeah.
Not all 9-year-olds are the same. So I kind of like having a word that's not so tied to age, but then you need an explanation of what they mean. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, you guys go on. I'm gonna go grab Toby, and I'll be back in a minute or two.
Okay. So what I thought I would do is share my screen.
Sharon, I didn't realize that you had like done a curriculum and like had leveled everything and all that jazz. This is awesome.
Well, I wanted it for my studio, so that's what I've done. So yeah, I figured that if I needed it, other people probably did too. So if you haven't signed up for it, this is what you'll see about contact, sign up, login, etc. And that's just got the overview there, and you know what you'll get and a few bits and pieces. But what I thought I would do is actually show you, once you have signed up, you also see this, my library, which is where all the materials are.
I'm gonna hop over here, and then I'll join the other side when I get back.
Maybe we should just wait for Jen and her staff.
Okay.
They're on their way.
You can ask your question.
Hello, Jen and colleague. What's your name there?
Hi, I'm and colleague. My name's Toby. How's it going?
It's going very well. I'm Sharon. Nice to meet you, Toby.
Shannon, nice to meet you. Unfortunately, I only have like 10 minutes before my next lesson, so I'm gonna just jump in here. And
so this is being recorded, and you'll have an opportunity to watch the video later. I was just saying, I've just jumped into the Kajabi site to show you everything. If you're not signed up to it, what you see is this, a little overview and some information here, and about contact, sign up, login. But once you have signed up for it, then you also see my library, which is where all the materials are. So Toby, are you teaching groups at the moment?
Yeah, I just had what I thought was an individual lesson, but then turned into a group lesson. So that was interesting. I guess one thing is having some structure would be really good, because and I think my biggest challenge is the varying skill levels.
Yes.
You know, like in this thing that I just did, one of my students was very beginner, and the other was a little bit like had a couple months.
So that's the big overarching question of how to make groups work when you have differing levels, is that you really need to have materials that are differentiated, so they can be playing the same song together, but there are already differentiated levels within the song.
Right.
So when you jump in, there's 3 main sections here. This is our 4+-year-old section, our 7+-year-old section, and down here we've got resources, tips, and games. I might just jump into this one first.
I love that. I love games. Great.
Oh, thank you. There's a bunch of stuff about the equipment that you might need and how to set up a room. There's a little video where I go through and explain all of those things, and there's a PDF download with a checklist. I won't go into all of them at the moment. There's a bunch of games here which are things that you print, and you could either print them on card or print them on normal paper and laminate them. And they're just things to mean that you can break up the class so everyone's not sitting with their instruments stuck to them for the whole time of the lesson. And they're all about supplementing ways of accessing the knowledge that you need about chords, about rhythm, etc., etc. And I find that being able to have students get up, move around the room can actually be a really good thing to do, especially for those wriggly kids who I'm sure you'll come across one way or another. And then there's a bunch of images that you can use for social media to promote your classes. So they're all branded with this green stuff, and they, you know, things like playing music together is fun, whatever. So it just makes it easier once you decide to jump on to quickly be up and running with promoting your classes. So let's have a look. Can I have a quick show of hands if you'd prefer to start with a 7-year-old group or the 4-year-old group? Let's go hands up for 7-year-old. You'd prefer to start with that? Got nobody. 4-year-old. Let's start with 4-year-old. Okay.
Let's start at the beginning.
Start the whole.
Well, it's not necessarily the beginning. If you have an 8-year-old joining you that hasn't learned guitar before, I wouldn't put them in a class with 4-year-olds because they're just going to think, what am I doing in here with all these babies? So all of the materials have multiple difficulty levels built into them. So just because it's the 7+ materials, it doesn't mean that you can't use them with beginners, but also there are more complex versions of all the song. There's an introduction here. Let's have a quick look at the fruit workbook. So we go in here and here's our downloads, and you click the downloads. I already opened these so that it would be quicker for me to load. We have
Sharon, while you're opening this, what is the intention of how long the kids should be in these classes before they break out into something else?
We do 30 minutes.
Not per class, like long term. Like, does it take, you know, is this a 12-week session for each book and then they rotate through, like that sort of explanation?
So there's 8 songs in each book, and then actually here's the lesson plans.
Okay.
So one for each book, and we will be uploading teacher training videos for them as well. I haven't quite gone all up yet. And then at the end it says remaining lessons, create their own song, what tempo and dynamics, etc. Revisit all the songs, choose a favourite to perform at watching week, review chords and rhythms. So there's 8 weeks of here's a new song to learn, and then depending on how long your term is, you can add whatever number of these work for you. So if you've got a 9-week term, you might just do watching week on that final one. If you've got a 10-week term, you might do a composition 1 week and then a watching week. If you've got an 11-week term, you could do a review of all of the songs. You could do a lesson where you do just a bunch of games. So it's kind of elastic like that, because I know people have different amounts of terms. So to hopefully make this a bit less distracting, let's just look at the workbook. So on the site, there are PDFs of these. This one is what you would call a home print version, so it doesn't have the trim marks that you need around the edges if you have it commercially printed. And we have the A4 paper size version, and we have the US letter paper size version. So whichever one is a good fit for what you're going to do. I tend to get them commercially printed. I love that they come back all shiny and they get delivered to me in a couple of days. And I'm not assembling things or putting them in folders or stapling or any of that stuff. They just arrive. But whatever works for you is good. So there's just a little bit of an overview, something visual to help you understand how tablature works and the basic chords that we're using in this book, and a little bit about rests. Here's our first song. So for every new note that we're going to learn, there's a little diagram where they're going to fill in class what the note is, so that if they're at home practicing and they can't remember where to put their hands on the instrument, there's a little visual reminder. And doesn't get much more simple than this. As a starter entry-level song, you've got 1 note, and you've got it in tablature and also in notation, and you've got a chord symbol. It's also colour-coded so that it's easy to say to a student, look at the blue ones, that's what you're going to be doing, or look at the red ones, that's what you're going to be doing. Because to start off with, what we don't want to do is hammer them with a bunch of musical terminology and immediately expect them to remember that and be able to access it. But 4-year-olds know what blue and what red is, and that just makes it a little bit easier. The first time a new note is included in a song, the letter name is written in there. So that's reinforcing as well that this is an E. You're going to sing the lyrics with them. You might sing the rhythms with them, and all of that's explained in the lesson plan here, which takes you through, that's what the objective is, which is also written on the workbook page. You're going to identify the string, write the note, discuss the difference between notational and tablet. I do that in a pretty brief overview way. Again, we don't want to overwhelm them too much. You might want to sing the alphabet song with them, talk about half notes and quarter notes, introduce a C chord. And then you can see there's 3 challenges listed here. So for some students, the main melody reading the tablature is what they're going to go for. Other students, they're going to be looking at the notation. Somebody else might be strumming the chords, and you know your students and you know who's going to be a good fit for each of those. And if there's someone that's surprised, lesson 1, they're already on top of it, you're going to go, oh, I want you to master all 3 of these challenges potentially. So for every single song, we've got all of this information written out for you. So then we've got week 2, we've got another note, we've got another chord. Again, we've got every time a new note is here, the note name is written in there. Banana song, and now we've got 2 parts going on. So there's 3 notes happening here, but if you had a new student joining the class for the first time, that might be a bit much for them to master, so they can just be doing the simpler 2-note version, for example. Another song. It's got more notes in it. It's got a simple version here. Now we're moving to the second string. And now, so this is the simpler version and this is the more complex version. And maybe it's a matter of the teacher's going to play this, and they all work as duets. They can be played together. Does anyone have any questions so far? Am I going through it too quickly?
I'm really curious as to how 4-year-olds respond to playing this. Like I'm thinking of the 4-year-olds I know, and I'm like, man, you guys are like, you're in for it if we're gonna do this in the class.
Too easy or too hard, do you mean?
I think it might be a little bit challenging for them.
Okay.
The ones that I know, but maybe I'm just.
So then they would just be looking at the tablature and they'd just be playing C's and B's, which are on the same string.
Okay.
And it's 4+. So you might have 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and maybe a 7-year-old. So that kind of overlap happens. It's the intersection of who's available when and when have you got classes on. The differentiation gives you that scope to, if you've got a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, they could be actually in the group.
Yeah, one thing maybe that kind of coincides with group piano that I've done, Sharon, is do you ever schedule, like, in terms of teacher attention or classroom management load, would you ever schedule 4 4-year-olds in the same class, or would that be really dangerous?
We regularly do that with our little keynotes class.
Okay.
We have up to 6 in our keynotes class, but remember, they're all doing the same thing together. It's not that you're trying to visit. We do have like 5 minutes in a class where we're asking them to practice independently and we go visit them one-on-one. Mm-hmm. But like the rule of thumb that I tell my teachers is, if you're going to be speaking to one student, you absolutely need to make sure that every other student in that class has something that they are doing, something that they're working on. Because if you don't, that's when that idle hands thing kicks in. A student that's not engaged in something is a potential for behavioural problems instantly. So you've got to give the classes as a whole an instruction of, do this thing, whatever it may be.
So when a question
that's going on, that's when you go and talk to a student one-on-one.
Gotcha. So like when a question comes forward in piano lab, often I'll have the kids take their headphones off and I address the whole class because it's a good question
Absolutely.
and it's a good opportunity to reinforce. So the same thing would apply.
Yeah, so we don't tend to do headphones in the guitar classes because lots of our students are on acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's absolutely fine to have a combination of electric and acoustic. I would just think about that before they turn up and put all of the electric guitar players at the end of the room where the amp is. And my other hot tip is to have brightly coloured leads so you can easily identify who's plugged into which channel if some adjustments need to be made. I know rock and roll black leads is the thing we all have in our personal gig kit, but a tip for guitar classes. Yeah, so if you're teaching the same material to everyone, then the opportunities for that to happen of you're speaking to one child at a time are actually quite, a short amount of time within the scope of the whole class. You said, Ray, that your classes are 50 minutes long. We tend to do 30-minute classes for these.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can see that in a lab style, you would want each child to feel like they've had some one-on-one time with a teacher and they're not just going to a room to be there with headphones working independently.
Yeah.
But if it's a class where everyone's working on the same material together, you don't have that so much as an issue. So you might be able to fit 2 30-minute classes into your schedule where your current setup only gives you one 50-minute class and a 10-minute overlap or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So immediately the whole business model of it shifts.
Can't read it quite over there.
What's that, Jen?
No, go ahead. Sorry, okay. Side discussion.
So now we've got things going on 2 strings and 2 parts. And here again, this is basically a baseline. So let's say, what is this, week 6 of the book? You've got a brand new student that's joining you. This is a bit much for a brand new student to jump straight in, but they can probably play this with a bit of one-on-one, here's the 2 notes that you need to think about. So it's designed so that you can add new students when you need to.
Sharon, I did have a question. So you were talking about everybody's doing the same thing and not needing individual time, but yet I'm a little confused on that. How do you manage when you have a new student in there and they're doing the tablature and another student in there that's playing the melody? How do you deal with that? How do you teach that?
So it's easy to think that as a teacher, it's my job to deliver material to students for 30 minutes from the minute they walk in the door to the minute they leave. But I like to think of it more that we can actually be the facilitator of the student's learning, and that doesn't necessarily mean it all has to come from us. And if you ask an existing student to say to the brand new student in the room, can you show our new student where to find C? Can you show them in their book where to write the C in? And can you show them on the guitar? And that existing student is going to be so proud of themselves. And the idea of finding words to explain it and demonstrate it to another student is actually quite a good way for them to consolidate their own knowledge of it. So we're not expecting that the new student that joins and is just playing these 2 notes to know all of the material in the previous weeks that they've missed. Because after this workbook, they're going to do another workbook and it's going to have objectives that are pretty similar. So they'll get another opportunity in the next workbook to pick up the stuff that they missed. And that's what the cyclical nature of this program, and it's the same with keynotes, that's what that gives them. So it's fine that they only know C and G at this point, the brand new student who's just joined us.
I can also second that, Sharon, like when it comes to teaching in the lab style right now, and you're doing single stream where everyone's doing the same thing at once, the amount of things that kids will pick up without you having to stand over and breathe over their neck and shoulder. Yeah. If we as teachers just stood back a little bit more, man, oh man, those kids teach themselves so much in a short amount of time without us having to say a word. We just have to facilitate a good environment for them to learn it in.
Yeah.
So one big thing I learned.
Yeah. And it's much less exhausting when you realize that. Because I think when you
Yeah.
start teaching, you're like, I got to make sure they learn heaps and I squash as much knowledge into these kids as I can in this lesson time. And it's exhausting, but it's actually also unnecessary. And it's more important to focus on, are they learning things rather than am I teaching things myself personally? And even with some of the games, this is actually a piano example that I'm thinking of, but we do a game where we have laminated pages with sections of the keyboard, the part with the 2 black notes, the part with the 3 black notes, and just hand them all out and go, we're going to make a piano. All right, let's go. And the idea is for them to engage with that pattern of 2 and 3. And a brand new student might put one of them upside down, or might put 2 sets of 2 black keys next to each other or whatever. And you can just kind of step back for a second, and sooner or later an existing student will go, no, that one's in the wrong place, let me show you. Or you can just say something like, does that look right to you? Go and look at a real piano and see if that's the same. And that's all you need to do sometimes. And there are laminated printout games where, like versions of this, where you would use coloured dots or pom-poms or, you know, any small item that you happen to have at your disposal for them to put them in the right place to represent different chords and notes. And, you know, they'll look at the people on either side of them to check if they've got it correct or not. And multiple different ways of accessing knowledge makes it stick better, I think. Peach song, we did that. Oranges and lemons. So at the end, we've got a 3-part harmony song. So this might look a little bit overwhelming and confusing, but within each particular part, they're not necessarily needing all of them. And we've got a sharp there as well for the high achievers in the class. So it's nice to finish the book on a 3-part harmony, and that's the book. So then if they've done this one, and you can do them in any order, so that's the fruit book. Do you want to jump to another 4+ book, or do you want to have a look? Oh, by the way, here's what the certificate looks like. You can just write their name in there or do it on in the PDF, or there's also a Canva version of it where you can do what in Excel you call a mail merge, and it'll put the names in for you. So that's another thing. Shall we look at, let's look at mystery. Here's the lesson plans for mystery.
No, that was pretty straightforward.
And here is the workbook. So some of you have done this book or parts of this book. Yeah. So again, we've got a little diagram and the chord symbols. So in these books, we don't need the lesson plans, you know that they're there. We've actually got 2 versions of the chord symbols as well. So again, a super simple version. So if you've got a 7-year-old who's literally never played guitar before, that's their entry point. And if you've got someone who's a gun and has been doing it for a while, there's that for them. Again, we've got these diagrams to colour in. And we're adding some other ideas in here as well. We've got some rests now, we've got some staccato now. Sorry about that. We've got 3 notes. We've still got fairly simple rhythms. We've now got some 1/8 notes in there. And again, a much simpler part, and then one with a whole lot more movement going on. I always love this particular illustration. And again, week 5, brand new student joins you, really easy version there, which is again effectively the base part. We've got a 3/4 song split onto 2 pages. Got a whole bunch of 1/8 notes now.
So Sharon, just to clarify, this is still within that 4+.
No, this is a 7+ book.
Oh, this is a 7+ book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then 3-part harmony at the end. So would you like to see another 4+ book or another 7+ book? Nobody knows.
I personally would like to see another 4+ book.
Okay.
How many are there in each in the 4+?
There will be 5 because we started with a 7+ book. With the 5th one, we're testing that this term coming up. So there's 4 on Kajabi at the moment, and we're 1 less with the 4+ books. But every term we add another one. So if you were to start now, you're not going to discover that you've run out of books.
So like down the road, like say, as your terms continue, are you going to continually add to this library?
So yeah, absolutely yes. There'll be more games, there'll be more social media things. We're in the process of adding teacher training videos for every lesson and demonstrations of the songs for parents to use to help their kids play them. Some of that's up there, but it's being added as we go along. This is a 4+ book and it's the pets one. So I've got a dog, got 2 parts, got a cat song, got a bird song. So you can see some repetition of the notes that they're playing. What's so funny, Jen? Oh, hang on.
Could have to bark in time, right?
They have to bark in time. Absolutely. Fish song. Recognise similarities and differences in patterns. Got a 6/8 one here. So this one's only got 2 notes in it. So it's the simpler version, that's the harder version. A hamster song. 3/4, and again a simpler version. I hope I'm going through them at a speed that's working for you guys.
Yep.
Pony song. And a unicorn is in 3 parts because you can't not have a unicorn in your book about pets. Magical with its sparkly horns.
Every little 4-year-old girl's dream.
Yeah. I did ponder that going, are the boys going to be into that? And I'm like, yeah, they just have to like unicorns too. Any questions, any thoughts, any things you want to talk to me about?
Just one. So I just wanted to clarify one more time. So 4+ that umbrella, if we went there for a second. So right now there's 4 workbooks in there with 8 lessons each.
So right now there's 2 workbooks up there. I could probably put a 3rd one up there, but they're each going to last you 8 to 10 weeks. So even if you were to start now, by the time you finish probably whichever one you started with, the 3rd one will be up. And we're adding every term for our own use anyway.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe I can take you back here.
I'm not like trying to rush you. I'm just wondering what's in there right now for planning purposes.
So this is the 4+ group, and that's the fruit workbook and the pets workbook.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
you know, the downloads within them. And if we go back to the library.
So right now there's actually 16 to 20 weeks of content in there right now.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's provided everybody moves on each week. Like, do you ever find that some students, like, you need to pull back one week and just really, really focus on a song?
It's rare to do that. That might mean that you've got a student who should go up a level or down a level kind of thing.
Okay.
And as the studio grows, we've just added our 25th group class to the week. And whilst we don't do makeup lessons, we do say to students, if you're not available for your normal time slot, let us know. And if there's a space in an alternate class the same week, then you can jump in. And to make that work, it means that all the classes need to be moving through it at the same rate. I have done it occasionally. So our policy is that if there's a public holiday, we just have class go ahead as normal. Occasionally that works really badly, like when there was, I think it was Halloween immediately before a public holiday. So everyone just went away. And it was just like, hello, I can shoot a command through my school. There's a student here, a student there, and where is everybody? And I think then we might have kind of slowed down that 1 week. But the bigger your school grows, the more I want things to be happening in a really consistent way, so everybody knows. And if a teacher's away sick and someone else covers for them, I want it to be really obvious where we're up to with the book for the sub. So yes, you can. It's completely up to you how you use the materials. I've done holiday programs where I do, you come 5 days in a row and we do the book. Now, did we maybe cram 2 lessons into 1 day, or to try and get to the end of the book? And you can use them however works for you.
You're listed.
Okay.
So yeah, but those are some considerations, and you just use them however works. So there's our 4 books that are in there for the 7+ group. I kind of thought that this would be the area people would have most interest in, so I wanted to make sure these were all up. But interesting that there's interest in the 4+ groups. Kylie, what ages are you teaching?
So the school I work with only starts instrument specific group lessons after they're 7. Before that, it's all like general music type stuff.
Okay.
So most of the kids in the group guitar classes, they're like a couple 8-year-olds, mostly 9-year-olds.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've been working through the mystery workbook.
And you finding it's a good fit for the level that they're at?
Yeah, it's great. We had the class I subbed yesterday, actually, we had a brand new student come in. He'd never even held a guitar. And then I have some students who can look at a tab and they just learn it like that. And then I scaffolded it to have that student work with the brand new student. Yeah. And he learned ABC, and then by the end of the class he had his full C chord. It was like, he was wonderful. But yeah, it really works. It's easy to scaffold and work around. We definitely have to throw in some easy like rote learning classic rock riffs and stuff to keep the 9-year-olds excited, but they do like it, and they like the challenge too. There's like the perfect level for everyone. Yeah, it's working.
That's excellent feedback to hear.
Yeah,
much appreciated. Yeah.
Can I just piggyback off that comment right there, Kylie? I did a survey at the end of this last school year, and I surveyed how students were feeling like their interests were matching the music we were doing in class. And then I also surveyed parents on how they felt the same way, and I gave them options for like more Disney music, more movie theme titles, more rock, more pop. Like, I just gave them a bunch, and about 90% of them said that they wanted more of that. And feedback from parents was this: whenever my son comes home with a piece of Disney music, he practices like crazy. And so my thought on it is, like, as a piano teacher, I supplement my students with Disney music and pop and stuff, but I do have a regular lesson book that they're learning concepts of, so they're getting good skills and knowledge. But what if I was you, Sharon, and I had to like give you some really solid feedback about the content, putting stuff like that, like songs that kids know in the 4 to 4-year-old program, like Encanto, or like anything from a Disney movie, that would just like light them up, probably, is my guess.
I need to do some serious homework in what the copyright implications of that are worldwide. And that's kind of why I've avoided it. But yeah,
that's fair.
Point. And for me to be selling materials that are copyright in every jurisdiction, that's a chunk of homework to figure out how to make that.
Disney's pretty litigious, so.
Yeah.
What was that?
I'm just saying Disney's pretty litigious, so you want to be careful there. But Jen, I think you have a question.
We could just have a black market list of things to reference outside the book that you sell. Yeah, it's a black website for that. That would be great. No, the question was, what's it, I might have missed it, but what do you suggest for parent involvement or like the celebration and showing parents at the end of each workbook, that sort of thing, like we do with the little keynotes?
So we do pretty much the same thing. What we've done is the last 5 minutes of the last class, parents come in and the students do a mini performance, and that's as relaxed as a performance opportunity as you could possibly have. Students are in a space they're familiar with. Nobody has to put a bow tie on. You don't have to get dressed up. You don't have to book a venue. The parents already know where to come. And for lots of our families, they're like, phew, this is so easy. For the first time I'm planning to actually do a recital, I hid behind we were all in lockdown and we're not doing any public performances yet, but it's time to kind of add that to our studio's offering. So, I mean, the songs are all really short. So
How do you weave it into a performance if they want to, like if we already have gigs going on, how do we include them?
I haven't actually done this concept yet, but the concept that I had, if you've got multiple classes doing the same materials, and you know how you can spend as much time getting kids on and off a stage as they spend performing, especially if the songs are really short, is to have a choir, because all the songs have lyrics, and then say you've got a class of 4 students, they would come and pick up their instruments and perform their little song, and the choir is singing it with them. And then they go and take a bow, during which time the second group steps in and takes up their instruments, and the first group rejoins the choir, so that you're not trying to get everybody on and off stage. And it means that, you know, they can pick whichever their favourite songs are from the book, and it means how many you'd like to do. I don't know, 4 of them, whatever is the magic number, their favourite songs that they like. And that way you can rotate the students in and out of the performance space from a choir that's on stage, and then they all do a big bow at the end. Haven't tried it yet. I'm hoping it'll work.
Gotcha.
So, Ray, have you got thoughts on this?
I do. The piano ensemble is something that we're just introducing, and we just kind of pounded this idea out of student performance. I piloted one class this year where we had a couple students just working collaboratively during the class. In the last few classes of the year, I said, Kate, we're going to drop our workbook now and we're going to just work collaboratively. And here's our recital in 4 weeks from now. And I want us to prepare the next 3 weeks to get really good and solid. And they did. And I think we had 15 different duets that were done, some with me and the teacher, some with another teacher, and then some together as students. And I think because that's the other beautiful portion about group is you don't have to coordinate a one-on-one student with a one-on-one student lesson time.
Yep.
All there.
Yep.
Use it, right? It's like, okay, well, we all want to learn, we all want to play what was that Bark song? They all want to play that song. And so for, let's say, your recitals in your Christmas, or maybe you have one before then, you just say, okay, well, this is hands up, you kind of take a vote on it, and then we just prepare going into that time. So that's how I've done it. Worked well.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Jen, your teacher went back to teach?
Yes.
Yeah.
He said thumbs up.
Oh, good. Volunteer. It's always very lovely for me when I hear feedback from people. Oh, I taught this class and it worked really well. And students loved it, and you know they mastered things really quickly. Someone
when do you think you'll have some videos, Sharon?
There's a couple of the teacher training videos. There are some already on the site. I can show you.
I have some green teachers. Toby's probably one that could just pick it up and go for it, but I have my other ones really haven't done groups before, so that might be a really good asset for them.
Welcome to the teacher training lesson video for our mystery workbook.
What I've got here on the left is the workbook itself. So there's the different pages of it. So that's what you print out for your students. And what I have here on the right is the lesson plans for this particular workbook. So I'll go through them together to show you how it works. On the inside cover, we have a little picture just to help students figure out where on the instrument the I won't strings play the are. whole thing. I might just jump ahead a bit. So
Sure.
the numbers that we see here will show us what to do, rather than having to make decisions about individual notes, which can be played in lots of places on the guitar. I might just leave it at that, or you might not even bring that up if it's a class of newcomers. You're just going to have a good sense of who's in the room and what's going to be appropriate for them. For new beginners, this is something that's quite handy to do because they're going to be familiar with the alphabet, but you might just want to sing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I think you get the idea. Some students will think that that's hilarious, that you've just repeated the same letters over and over. So before you do it, you might say to them, I'm going to sing something that's probably familiar to you, but have a listen and see if you can hear something that's different to what you're used to. And you can just explain that those are all the letters that we need in music. We don't need the rest. And that just helps hop through another bit.
Creates kind of like a feedback loop. They hear the rhythm from the words that I've just said, and then that helps them to be able to understand how to play it as well. Another way you could do it is, so these ones are quick and these ones are slow. So they get slow, 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 quick, quick, slow, slow, slow. But it is good to actually start getting them to use the terminology of half notes and quarter notes. We've got a C chord in this. Young students with small hands.
Is that enough to give you an idea?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So it's like one video explaining each workbook.
Each lesson.
It is each lesson.
Yeah. And there's a bunch more that still need to be uploaded that we just haven't quite got to it yet. But yeah, if you started with a mystery workbook, there's 4 lessons there for you to get stuck into.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I'm good.
Sharon, I got to ask costs. What are we looking at for costs?
So you're in Canada.
Yep.
Let me just
Ripe old price of $8 million today.
Right?
95.
Yeah, the price question. So Sharon, are you going to do something awesome like the BAM squad and lock us in for a certain period of time?
I can give you a free month. I can give you a code for that. So Canada, $95 per month. I can give you a free month to start if you'd like.
Yeah, I think we should give it a try.
Yeah. So the code for 1 free month is the digit 1 and then the word month. 1 month. Easy to remember.
Yep.
Do you want me to put that in the chat or you got
No,
that?
we got that. Sharon, I have to say, I love how simple everything is. You've kept everything super simple. The pages, everything's clean. It's not distracting. Yeah, I think your layout and design is great.
Yeah, I came back from BAMCon having spoken to a few other people there going, maybe there is a market for this. Maybe it's not just me that wants to be doing group guitar lessons in this format.
Oh man, there's
So
such a market for it. Yeah.
I did a rush of activity on it and then we moved studios and a few other things happened and I slowed down a little bit, but I'm fired up again to make sure all of those things that are in my plans actually get implemented. And we're part of the way there. So, yeah.
Awesome.
There's a little Facebook group which hasn't been particularly active, but I think the more teachers that come on board, it can be a place where people say, oh, I had this situation with a student. How has anybody else handled it? And have that sort of support and, peer mentoring happening would be good.
Okay. Has anybody else used your marketing materials that you provide in there for Facebook ads or on YouTube or anything like that? I'm asking because I don't know. I should check with other people in the United States. I can't use the Keynotes marketing stuff because every single social media platform more bans it because it's not my content. They
Hmm.
they don't allow it. So like everything else I post is fine, but anything with that she's created for keynotes, it immediately gets taken down or rejected without even going up. So
I've never had that issue with Keynote stuff.
I
How
don't
are you
know.
posting
I've
them? Are
tried
you
several different
sharing?
things.
Are you sharing them, or are you using like creating a new post and using her imagery?
No, I'm uploading it. I'm not sharing it. I'm uploading it from the content library from her, from her login.
Wow.
So
I wonder
no,
if it's like reading the text on the screen as like keynotes, and it's recognizing her in the UK, and then
yeah,
realizing
it's
that you're
saying it's a copyright infringement. Yeah,
yeah
exactly.
yeah.
That is so bizarre.
Which is
I've used
very
them
irritating.
dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I've never had that issue. So I'm a bit puzzled as to
Why that's an issue for
happening.
me.
Post in the BAM squad. Maybe somebody knows. There'll be some social media expert that will have an opinion
Tell
on
me
that.
what to do. Okay.
And
Yeah,
I don't know if
that is
Melanie has an
frustrating.
idea, or if she's had that feedback from anybody else and how they solved it.
Okay.
Maybe put the question and tag her.
Yeah, it might be, Jen, as simple as taking those PDF documents and because they're PDFs, right?
So they might
I'm
be PNG images.
I
Okay.
think what always gets flagged is the video marketing.
Okay.
It's got a couple of videos in there that are like
Yeah.
30 seconds or 1 minute.
Yeah.
Every time I use those, they get flagged. They get
Mm.
taken down.
Yeah.
So
I haven't tried to use the videos for a while, but so for her, each workbook has its own set of social media images. I'm not quite that comprehensive yet. It's coming. And I use I can show you where they are if you want. They're just all
yours
together.
are images, right, Sharon?
Yeah, I haven't done a video so far. So
And I wondered if it would be as easy as throwing the content into Canva. Might be a little bit time intensive on the front end, but essentially, like, you have the rights to that information. So taking that, putting it into your own file, and then uploading it that way. I don't know.
Saving it again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I could try it. Maybe resaving it would work, but if it's reading keynotes, etc., that's not, I can't get rid of that because it's like huge across her videos. So
she
I'm
may
not
know the answer. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, unfortunately. I'm just thinking, rather than me downloading all these and showing them to you, it might be easier for me to just find them in my own file where I uploaded them from.
But they're all PNG files, so
Yeah,
it should be fine.
Ladies, I gotta run. Sharon, thank you so much.
Nice to meet you, Ray.
Yeah, you
nice to
too,
meet
Jen.
you too.
And yeah, I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon.
Thank you for joining us. And if you've got any other questions, send me an email, send me a Facebook Messenger message, whatever. Happy to answer any questions you might have. And in the meantime, jump on that code, the subscribe button or the sign up button, and put in the code. And then you can poke around in your own time and see what's there.
Yeah,
cool.
That's great.
What's the site again, Sharon?
Groupguitar.mykajabi.com. Do you want me to put that in the chat?
Sure. All right.
Perfect.
I appreciate it, Sharon.
Thanks again.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye.